7 Expo 2019. Visite o maior evento de tecnologia e negócios de mídia e entretenimento da América Latina. Venha conferir os lançamentos das principais marcas do Brasil e do mundo e debater o futuro do setor com influenciadores e especialistas. Explore inovações e conheça as novas tendências. 7 Expo 2019, 26 a 29 de agosto em São Paulo. Inscreva-se agora, 7expo.com.br.
Okay, can we start? So good evening, everyone. This talk is going to be in English, so apologies for that. But let's first of all kind of decipher the title of the presentation, which contains many acronyms. So the talk is about next generation immersive audio for extended reality. So effectively, we are doing a lot of work in terms of immersive audio for TV and soundbar, and what about the mobile phones? That's what we're going to try and address in this talk. I work for Qualcomm. Qualcomm, you may know, is a company that's heavily invested in 5G. We are driving also the next generation of Wi-Fi, as well as processor for the chipsets for the phones. We do have also a multimedia R&D group when we try to address these kind of use cases. And what we're going to talk today is that Yeah, so we know that users are gonna consume content on a variety of these devices. It could be a phone, could be a tablet, could be a VR headset, could be a TV, and it's all enabled by connectivity at this point. Today is 4.5G LTE, could be 5G in the future, and so forth. So the real question at this point is that how do we enable these experiences in a homogeneous way, in such a diverse ecosystem? And in order to do that, we have to first of all recognize what this ecosystem is. And today we have laptops which are always connected. We have phones, we have tablets, and all these devices have recording, so capturing and playback capabilities. So in order to address this very complicated use case, we have a audio codec that helps us with this, and the name is MPEG-H. MPEG-H is a standard. It's an open standard that allows the transmission of very complex audio scenes, which include personalization features, so you can kind of control the level of the dialogue versus the music and effects. So it's very useful for those who are hearing impaired. And you have immersive audio, of course, and you can also have universal delivery, which means that your content can be consumed on any device effectively. So in order to enable that, the standards has to be adopted, and this gives an idea, this slide gives an idea of the current status in the adoption. We have to add Brazil to this slide because it was recently ratified in the ZTVB, which means that now Brazilian viewers can benefit out of the MPEG-H presence in the Brazilian ecosystem. Of course, there is also a very complex ecosystem of professional broadcast equipment, system and chip support, and it's all kind of has to be aligned to make this technology happen. And thankfully, this is ever growing as we speak. Now, some of you may be aware of the different formats for immersive audio, which is kind of channels like stereo 5.1, 7.1 plus 4. Then there is objects. Basically, you have audio stems which have metadata associated. For example, you can say, oh, this is a English dialogue, this is a French dialogue, and so forth. And then there is a third format, which is higher order ambisonics, which is the scene-based audio, which aims at capturing the 3D sound field in its entirety. And for example, to address immersive audio use cases, one could think of using object-based audio and scene-based audio together. That's what we're going to use to address those use cases. Now, a quick word on scene-based audio and higher order ambisonics as an audio format. The problem we're trying to address here is that we have a point of view. So as human beings, we always are exposed to something, some audio stream, some audio event, like me talking to you at this point. So effectively, the listener has a point of view. So the problem that we're trying to address is like, okay, so you're watching something on TV or on a tablet, and then you have a listening point, which is your couch now, as you're not at the event. So the question becomes, how can we enable you to feel as if you were there? Basically, that's the problem that we're trying to address. And scene-based audio and ambisonics help us doing that. Right. So one of the reasons why scene-based audio is advantageous is that, first of all, it's high fidelity, in the sense that you can capture the 3D sound field very accurately. It's efficient. You can implement it on mobile phones. It won't drain your battery. That's good. And also it's comprehensive because it gives you a set of tools that you can use for the production as well as the rendering of the audio scenes. Just as a kind of a quick overview, so we're all familiar with stereo 5.1 and 7.1 as formats, but they only cover the horizontal plane. And similarly, when you have other loudspeaker layouts such as 7.1 plus 4, 5.1 plus 2, they cover portions of the space. Instead, with higher order ambisonics, you represent the entire sound field as a whole. So this is a very powerful tool for certain use cases which we're going to address in the next slides. So in particular, scene-based audio is very conducive for VR. So in VR you need high quality capture, it has to be power efficient. You need to implement it on devices which are wearable, like the set of glasses, for example. And then it has to provide an immersive experience as well. So there are lots of trade-offs that have to be taken into account in this kind of use cases, especially because we are running this on a mobile device. Right, so like the basics of 3D audio, it follows how we as humans perceive sound. So typically when a sound comes from a certain direction, what happens is that the sound that's closest to the ear will be louder. And then after some time, the sound will reach the other ear, so with a delay, and also with an attenuation. The brain interprets this information as with a directional sound. And so we need to basically fool the brain into thinking that the virtual sound that we are producing is actually realistic. So it's a very challenging problem from a psychoacoustical point of view. Not to mention that when we turn our head, we actually want the sound to adapt to that head rotation. So there is a lot going on, and luckily we have technology and hardware to address those use cases. And yes, of course, if the sound source is dynamic, we want this to be accounted for as well. Right. So one of the features that we are demonstrating also here at Set Expo is that you can have, for example, a 360 video on a tablet, like in this case, and you can basically rotate the scene, so you can explore the scene, as well as zoom. So when you select a specific point, you will get the sound from that specific point isolated. And this is really powerful because if you have dialogue or you want to listen to the lead singer or the guitar player, this allows you to do that. And at the same time, if you want to do that in a head tracking kind of fashion, you can have head tracking sensor in the headphones, and the sound field will be adapted as you move your head. So this is what we are demonstrating here. We'll give you more information as we end this talk. Right. Now, some use cases. What can I do with this technology? We can use it in sports. So for example, here we can have a 360 camera and an ambisonics microphone which captures the sound field. We can augment the scene with some commentary, and then through some appropriate production techniques, you can actually create different mixes, among which you can create an HOA mix, which will give you the necessary sound field information for a VR use case. Furthermore, you can also do other types of sports, and you can get creative on that. So for example, we did some table tennis trials, and in this case, for example, the producer added a couple of sport microphones at the bottom of the table to enhance the realism of the wood when the ball would hit the wood. And in addition to that, we can also do concerts. Music is another very interesting use case. So for example, you can get a very hybrid production here because you can have a 360 camera, and you can have spot microphones or ambient microphones. You can have ambisonics microphones, and you can also augment the scene with the microphone feeds that come from the stage. And again, I have an example of this clip in the demo that you guys can check out once we end this talk. Yeah, so for example, another use case which is interesting is how do we integrate this VR 360 technology with linear TV as we know it. It's definitely possible, and scene-based audio offers actually a cheap solution to implement single audio for different formats. So for example, in this case, we're producing the 360 audio using spot microphones, ambisonics microphones, and the same audio production goes for the 360 camera and the linear TV. So exactly the same audio. This is probably cheaper to be implemented as opposed to producing audio for different formats such as VR and 360 TV. Of course, you know, the production workflow follows the rules of normal production workflows. Probably the only difference that you have appropriate kind of ambisonic spanner to position the sounds as the way you want it. And I guess, you know, we can also show a very complicated block diagram of how this could be done, but the concept behind this is very simple, because basically we have a monitoring and mixing stage which captures all the sensors data, and we can basically use the same audio stream and max it with the video for different formats. So we can have a lounge room where we have home theater system or tablets or HMD, and with a single stream you can cater all these devices simultaneously. So from a production standpoint, this is cheaper than producing content for multiple formats. So yeah, so this, I hope this gives you an overview of what can be accomplished with this format. We have some demos here, so please come and check us out at the UHD Forum booth. Is near the entrance. I will be there probably for the next half an hour. So if you guys want to check out the demos, we have VR and 360 video demos. And I guess this concludes my presentation. Thank you.
Alguém tem uma pergunta?
Não? Obrigado.